When I was growing up, I was mainstreamed. All my friends were hearing. I only had a few deaf friends. So I was really used to hearing culture and the way hearing world worked. But I didn't meet deaf friends until I was in college. So it wasn't until college that I realized I was bi. Oh, let me clarify. Bilingual is what I mean. I realized I was bilingual when I was learning ASL. I realized it was a different language, a different world, a different culture, and it didn't mean that I didn't want anything to do with English, because I actually loved English. I was a reader, a writer. I loved to play with words. It's something I really enjoyed. But I also didn't think that ASL was less of a language than English. I always felt it was just a magnificent language that could be really expressive. I also didn't think English was better than ASL. Really, I felt that they were on equal playing fields. I was a 50% bilingual guy. So when I got into college, I decided that my major was creative writing and English. And my first year, my freshman year, I got through everything, but actually my second year of college, something happened. My father was laid off. And at that time, my mom wasn't working. My parents were paying for college. They had already paid for my sister, which meant that they didn't have any money once my dad was laid off. So my parents talked it over and decided to call a family meeting to discuss my college tuition. And they were like, "Crom, we love you, but..." And I was like, "You know what, Mom and Dad, I completely understand. There's other options for me. I can apply for VR. Do you guys know what VR is? Let me explain it to those who don't know what vocational rehabilitation is. Free government money for a group of deaf people that are upset by being labeled as disabled, but will accept the label of disabled for free government money. That. I told my parents I could apply for VR and I would get money for everything I needed, including tutoring. So I applied for VR. I had to, of course, meet with a counselor to fill out paperwork. So I went ahead with the appointment, showed up at the counselor's office. And I will never forget that day. It was so terrible because when I got to the office, the guy's name was on his little placard. And I walked in and I saw this guy who was ancient. He had this huge white beard, these super thick round glasses, and he's looking at me going, "Oh, hey, you must be Crom. That's a weird name. Well, why don't you come in and sit down? Let me ask you some questions and we'll fill out some paperwork." So, of course, he asked me some questions, which I responded to. Filled out the paperwork. And he said, "Well, it seems like everything's in order. I'll go ahead and approve this, but actually I have another question for you. What are you going to major in?" And I proudly said, "My major is going to be English." To which he responded, "Ahem. I really feel sorry for you. Because most deaf who major in humanities, it usually doesn't work for them. They end up working in a gas station." That infuriated me. In fact, I almost blew up at the guy, but I decided, you know, he doesn't know me. He doesn't know what my English skills are. He doesn't know what motivation I have. So I decided not to say anything and just respond with, "I'm still getting my free government money, right? Okay then." And I took off. But I actually was able to get back at the guy. You know how? After I graduated, got my BA in English, then got my master's in creative writing, I took both of my degrees with me, like a hot shot, out into the real world. And then a few years ago, I was actually driving in my old neighborhood, saw my old college, and I thought, man, I haven't been there in some time. I should probably visit. Kind of, you know, look back on some good times. So I got out, looked around, remembered some things, was like, oh yeah, that's where I met my first college girlfriend. Oh yeah, and there's where, who that college party was, and oh yeah, I almost was arrested there for, you know, all that normal college stuff. So as I was looking around, I saw the VR counselor's office, and I was shocked to see the same guy's name there. I'm like, this guy's still working? This is impossible. This guy's got to be dead. He's way past retirement age. He was old back then. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to barge in on this guy and be like, hey, you remember me? No, you remember these? I wanted to let you know you were dead wrong. You were way off. You pictured that I would be working in a gas station by now, but I'm here to tell you I don't work in a gas station. I got my BA. I got my MA in English. And I do not work at a gas station. In fact, I work at Walmart. So there. Anyway, back to the point I was trying to make. The hearing people that I spent time with, they would always say the same thing. Wow, Crom, you are such a good lip reader. And even my deaf friends would be like, wow, you can read lips really well. And I would be like, yeah, I know, thanks. But you know what? I really can't live this lie any longer. I've perpetuated for so long. I've decided I've got to be honest with you guys here on this DVD and expose my secret. I am not that great at lip reading. Lip reading is super hard. Lip reading as a skill, you know, is not something people are born with. It's not something you can necessarily learn and practice either. You know, English is something you can only see 30% of on the mouth. So the secret to my reading lips and my success was I memorized a script in my head. And you're probably thinking, what is he talking about? So let me explain. In everyday life, you, me, and anyone else, we tend to do things routinely. We get home and we do certain things. We go to the same banks and we do certain things. We go to the same stores and we do certain things. We do things on the weekend, all routinely. And all those things follow a certain script. For example, if you go to the bank, you end up using the same vocabulary. If you go to the grocery store, you use the same vocabulary. At work, when you talk to your boss, you're going to use the same vocabulary. Everybody has a certain script that they follow. So for me, I was great at just memorizing that script. I would memorize what people would say, then practice speaking my responses at home until I could speak them very smoothly. So really, that's my secret. For example, well, actually, let me tell you what one problem is with that. Time does change. Time changes things, including language. Life changes, culture changes, so therefore the script changes. So if I didn't memorize a new script, my communication ended up being a wreck. So I have an example to give you proof of this. One time I went to a grocery store, a couple weeks ago in fact. Went in there and I had my grocery store list in mind. Now remember I talked about times changing because used to be the cashier at a grocery store was an older gentleman or an older lady and they would be super friendly, always ask about your family and have a little conversation. But now grocery stores are just full of teenagers who are just sitting behind the counter, you know, trained for one thing and one thing only, which is just to take your money. So they're just kind of like, yeah, moving you through a line. And so, of course, that has its own script, too. Now, I go into the grocery store a couple weeks ago, get my food, get into the line, see the cashier, so I get my script ready in my head. I've got all of my answers to all the questions that I know he's going to ask. So I get up to the cashier, and he starts talking to me. And so I answer with, I'm good. The reason I answered I'm good because I had pictured that he said, hi, how are you? But the issue is, that's not what he said. What he actually said was, did you find everything okay? But fortunately, my answer of, I'm good, matched a little bit. So I didn't look stupid, at least not yet. So then next, he asks, do you have a store advantage card? You know those cards for specific stores that'll give you a discount? I didn't understand anything he said. The only thing I caught was the last word. I saw a bunch of nonsense and then the word card. So I thought, card? Oh, gotcha. He asked me if I was going to use cash or credit. So I answered with, no, cash. Now, my speech isn't always perfect, so it might have sounded like what I intended to actually make it sound like was, oh no, comma, cash, but it sounded like, oh, comma, no cash. So I guess the cashier assumed that I was going to use my card, so then he asked, did you want cash back? Which I didn't understand any of. I didn't even understand the last word. All I heard was, and B-A, ba, for the last word. Oh, I thought, he must be asking me what kind of bag I want, paper or plastic. Oh, okay, this is a tough word. I'm going to have to respond very appropriately. So I asked for plastic. And of course, the cashier was totally confused at that point, and I thought, what? And he says, what? And I go, what? And he's like, what? So he stands there staring at me. I'm looking around and looking at him while he just stares at me blinking. And I was like, it went dead quiet. You could hear crickets chirping in that place. But I had to resolve the issue, so I just got out some cash, and that's usually how I would solve a problem like this. But remember, I'm a very curious person. I don't like to be wrong, and I don't like to be misunderstood, and I don't like misunderstanding things. So I was running through my head what he could have possibly said. And it kind of like, you could picture in my head a say and speak, you know, like that old toy that had all the pictures of different farm animals and stuff on it, and you had the string that you pulled. It would rotate around, and if it landed on a picture of a cow, it would be like, moo. If it landed on a picture of a sheep, it would be like, bah. So my head's spinning around like a say and speak, and I'm like, bah, cash back. Oh, he was asking about a card. He thought I was going to use a card and wanted to know if I wanted cash back. So in delayed response, I look up and go, oh, no. The problem was, by that time, he had spoken again, and I had no idea that he had, because I had all this internal dialogue going on, and he had asked me, do you want help out? So my response then was, oh, no. And of course he accepted the response and was going to send me on my way. And I'm like, oh, thank goodness this is over with. Grab my cart and start heading out, and then something happened. As I turned, the cashier noticed that I had hearing aids as I'm walking away. He, of course, didn't notice it before, for two apparent reasons. I'm bald on my head, so my head is pretty shiny. And I know this one is the truth. When people usually see me for the first time in their lives, they usually don't look me in the eyes. They usually look at my eyebrows. And they're like, that's some freaky shit. So he didn't notice my hearing aids. Now he notices them as I'm walking away, and he goes, oh, you're deaf. Now, you know the deaf people have a really good radar. They always know when someone's looking at them. They'll always know when somebody's looking at them, even another deaf person. They'll be like, hey, you looking at me? Oh, you're deaf too? Oh, where'd you grow up? Or they'll look at somebody, and if they're hearing, they'll be like, what are you looking at? And they get the person to take off. Deaf people have this radar right in their heads. I felt that radar go off. Somebody was looking at me. So I turn around, I see the guy looking at me, and the cashier had his eyebrows up, so I'm thinking, eyebrows up, he must have just asked me a question. What's the script? Oh yeah, duh. In the new script, he would say something like, do you need help out? And then of course I felt insulted because I'm like, I'm deaf. I'm not like, it's not like I'm an amputee or something where I need help carrying something out. So I planned on telling the guy off, but then I thought, you know, hearing culture, I better give them a polite answer. So I spoke very clearly to his question of, you're deaf? My response is,
Oh no, I'm cool.